This is really geared towards those with existing COC programs, existing COC funds. We will have a new application training this afternoon at 2 o'clock. So if you're applying for new COC funds, that's the one to be at. Before we get started, David's going to take us through kind of the nitty gritty of the new application. I wanted to just give you a brief overview of our timeline and where you can go for new information on the NOFO. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. Okay, are you seeing? Let's see.
We're seeing the presentation view.
Yeah, that's classic. Okay. Sorry, just a sec. Okay, that should have worked. Okay, so this is just kind of a brief overview of our NOFO competition and the timeline. Kind of just the look at the process with some dates from now to the end of September. Please come to all of our trainings and office hours. We're going to have an eSnaps training next week, and then in 2 weeks we'll have some office hours where you can come in and ask any technical difficulty questions or any other questions you may have regarding the application. You want to create or update your eSnaps account, fill in all of the necessary information for the new 2021 NOFO, but do not hit submit yet. Please wait until we have time to review it, and then final submission will happen in November. So from the end of September to the 11th of October, the applications will be looked at by the review and ranking committee. They'll be scored and ranked. You'll be notified of your score and ranking, at which point you will have the option of appealing if you so choose. That is due at the end of October, and we'll get back to you early November on how that the appeal went. From the 11th of October, really up until the end when the NOFO is due, that's when we'll do the final review of our applications and eSnaps. Please attend our ROCC quarterly meeting where we'll go over the final ranking of all of the applications, and we'll answer any last minute questions and kind of go over the process from there. That's on October 20th, Wednesday. And then the final submission eSnaps will happen on the 10th of November. So I called out some dates already, but just some more important dates for you. We are going to have those office hours on Tuesday, September 14th. That's from 10 to 12. All project proposal packets, that's due on the 30th of September. That is due. Please send it in to oregonbos@gmail.com. I'll send out these slides, and that email is listed there, and it's also listed in all of our documents. The first notification of application score and ranking will happen on the 11th of October. That's when you'll first find out how your project was ranked and scored, and at which point you'll have the option of appealing if you would like. And then the final submission in eSnaps is November 10th. A full breakdown of all these dates, timeline, and et cetera is in our 2021 NOFO timeline packet. It goes through in great detail all the important dates and where to go to apply, who to ask questions to. If you and even more information you can find on our website. We're going to have links to this training once they're completed on there as well. So if you go to oregonbos.org and go under the HUD competition page, there's a drop down for HUD competition 2021. You can find the competition timeline, the how to apply, the instructions for a new application, and then the applications themselves, and then the new and DV bonus project announcement. The trainings will also be up on the ROCC YouTube page, so I encourage you to go there as well. And if you have any questions at all, please reach out to me. You know my email, most of you, caleb@capooregon.com. So the rest of today, what we want to do is go over, David's going to take us through the renewal application and all the important things to be aware of when filling it out. If you have any questions at all, please put it in the chat, and then Justina and myself will answer your questions. Or we might, if we don't answer your questions, we'll save it to the end and we can answer questions at the very end as well. So without further ado, David, when you're ready, please take it away.
Great. Good morning, everyone. Hopefully you saw popped up, or you see popped up, a Excel spreadsheet, which is the new application that the ROCC is implementing starting this year. And I'm going to go through it, and there's probably going to be some questions when we get down to your supplemental documents. Perhaps some of you are very familiar with these documents. But I'm going to show you this because it's what we wanted to do at the ROCC is be much more consistent about what we request from each agency, and then very consistent on how the scoring will take place. And so we have this new format, and by now, hopefully all of you have had the opportunity to look at this document. And if you don't have a copy of it, then email Caleb and he'll get a copy to you. But it's basically two tabs. You have the application tab, so that it's for permanent supportive housing or rapid rehousing renewal grants. And then your second tab is a scoring sheet. And the way this is set up is, of course, you're going to want to put all the information that you have about your agency, how much you're requesting. And then as we go down, well, let me just start up here real quick. So anything that has the light beige are areas that you can enter into. Okay, so your agency name, you can type. What is your agency type? There's a drop down for you and you select it. All right, so fill in as much of this with your fiscal contact, your HMIS contact, all this information, please fill out for us. Project name, application type, it's going to be a drop down. There are your choices. And then of course, how much you are requesting for the new year. All right, so section 1, this really hasn't changed much from the past, except that we took out a few different reports that we no longer thought were important. But it's also set up here to kind of be a checklist for you to make sure that you have all the documents in place before you submit it. All right, so your application proposal, all of these are drop downs. It's just a way for you to check off, yes, I do have my different additions. Okay, so I just want to kind of show you that. From ELOCs, you'll want to provide your printout showing the last 2 grant closeouts, your final balances, and then your current grant drawdowns. All right, so you'll print those out and it'll be part of your attachments. And then again, you have your yes or no just to check off if you've got those ready. The next one is a draft eSNAPS project application relevant to the proposed project type. Again, if you have it already and you print it out, you have your check here. The next one is a copy of your APR, particularly here with the question 6A through C. And it's going to start giving you the COC acceptable error rate, which we have as agreement is 5% or less. So we'll have that printout. Number 5, a very important report. It's the 703. It's the report that's going to tell you if there has been income or employment increases. And it's a 3-year report, so you will need to go in there and make sure that you're using the dates going back the last 2 years and plus counting this year. So it's going to give you a percentage of any increase that has occurred in your project. Number 6, go ahead and send us a full APR report. It's one of the ART CAN reports. And please do that in a PDF format, because what we're going to do at the ROCC is we're going to run it from our standpoint. So either I will run it or Caleb, and we're going to compare your report with our report. So we want to make sure the data is accurate, because that's where scoring is going to kick in. All right. And then finally, If you have anything related to an audit finding of any sort from HUD, we do need to have a copy of that information. So for consistency across all the agencies, we did agree to keep the date that we have in the past. So from April 1st, 2020 through March 31st, 2021. All right, so that's for what you want to pull, especially for your APR. But remember, when you go to the employment 703, you're going to have to go back to April 2019 and probably 2018. So watch those input controls closely. All right, next section. These are the threshold requirements. Probably not unfamiliar to you. You have to meet everything here in order to reapply. All right, so again, you have your checklist, just a way for you to monitor if you have everything in place. Very simply, has everyone at your agency received training in HMIS? Are you using coordinated entry, BI SPDAT, and then regular HUD threshold requirements? Okay, outstanding obligation, audit findings, inadequate financial management, expenditures, a history. So all of these, none of this has changed. So just read them closely and answer yes or no. All right. Again, remember, if it's a no, you're not able to continue with the renewal. All right. So that's just the front page. That's to say, okay, here's the snapshot. Your agency director signs it. You probably sign it, whoever's going to be responsible for the program. And then we do have a staff member or somebody is writing the application or doing this work. Okay, so sign and date. Page 2. Now you get to enter the information from your documents. All right, so these are things that have been given points in the past, simply broken down by 1, is your application on time? And the one question that we always want to emphasize here is your project the only one that's being served? Is it the only one that's being implemented in a county? So we want to make sure we're spreading out our projects across our entire continuum. So we do give points or added credit for those who have projects that are the only projects in their county. Okay, so yes or no. Section 2 is now your data based on what you said you're going to do and what you actually did. And we provided the 8 different target numbers and exactly where in the APR you will find those numbers. All right. So it should be very simple. Just go out there, find the question, find the number, and type that number right there in each of those questions. Number children. So everything here should be fairly simple. It even gives you the line items when it needs to be very, very particular. All right, section 3, 25 points. Data quality. Okay, so looking at your APR, we need your data quality in these 4 areas. Nothing surprising based on, all the work we've been doing. So data, basic data elements, universal data, income housing, do not collect. We need to have that data or those numbers there. All right, moving along to section 4, we're at 5 points. Now we want to give you points based on your funding. So it's asking here, how much were you awarded? Get that from ELOCs. How much have you spent? Get that from ELOCs. And then if you had money the prior year, which you did, because last year was a 2-year renewal for obvious reasons, we do need you to do an ELOCs of the amount you were awarded and then what you spent last year. Okay, and there is a percentage calculated based on, did you spend 100%, 90%, whatever that percentage is, that's calculated towards your points, your 5 points. Section 5 through 7 now is all about your program success. What you said you were going to do in the application and what you actually did. Okay, so going to your application, you'll want to fill in how many people did you say in your application? How many households? How many beds? Okay, how many people left and exited to permanent destinations? Participants served, households, all this information. None of this is new, but all this information needs to be keyed in right here in those gray sections, I mean those beige sections, okay? All right, special consideration. Now, there are going to be a few situations, if someone passed away, is deceased while they were in your project, we don't want to ding you because they didn't exit to a permanent destination, all right? So if someone passed away again, we want to count that person. You want to say, I did serve someone. But what we have here is a special consideration. We can't let that go against your success, all right? So go ahead and count that exception here, right? Because you're going to have an opportunity to say why for the scorer, the one who's reviewing this. All right, so that's going to be very rare. We did have it come up. That's why we want to make sure it was here. And moving along a little more, down at the bottom, there is that still opportunity for your bonus points, up to 30 points max. So if you're serving any of these different populations, go ahead, only in the beige boxes are what you can answer. And the reason for that is earlier on page 1, you already said how many chronically and how many families. That's going to be in there automatically from when you entered it earlier. Okay. So what I'm going to do real quick, I'm just going to come up here to the top of the first page, and I'm going to just say 100 on here. And of course, it's not going to really look nice when it's all done, but I want to show you the next piece. 1,000, 950, 1,000, 1,000. Down, we had 75, 50, 50, 50, 50, 50, 75, 25, 10, 58, 72, just made up numbers, 5, 2, 2, 0. All right, so this is what you want to do, and I'm just going to go over here. You're going to answer all the beige. Okay. As I said, you're chronically homeless and your families with children, it's in white because you already answered that above. All right. So to help you, we also have tab 2. So now I'm going to go to tab 2. And this is the same scoring sheet that the evaluator will be using to get the final score. And we did this again so that we could be consistent across all the renewal applications. We want to make sure if you said this, you're going to get a percentage that's going to be the same as another agency who said this, same percentage of score. All right. So your contact, this information will populate over, so you don't need to worry about it. The title will populate over. Your type of project is very important. There's your drop down, because this scoring sheet is set up with different criteria based on, is it permanent supportive housing or rapid rehousing? All right, there's different ways that it's scored or different questions. And this application is set up where if you say rapid rehousing and you enter data into permanent supportive housing, it's not even going to acknowledge the permanent supportive housing data. All right, so it's very important to get your project type correct. As I scroll down, here is the data you entered, or I entered from page 1. Right? Rolling down, data quality, here is the data that's been entered from page 1. Right? And notice with my errors of 250, 10, 10, 10, all that calculated, I could have gotten 25 points, but I'm only getting 20.5, right? The reason why I'm getting 20.5, and we have documentation that can share this with you, the way this is calculated is the basic data elements for one individual could be 100. There could be 100 basic elements. But for the universal number 2, there might only be 50, all right? So we have to calculate the percentage of errors in each of these categories for the amount of errors that are possible. So I hope that makes sense. So the reason why it's 20.5 is because those errors are going to be percentage of errors within that section, within number 2, within number 3, and within number 4. All right. If you have any questions on the points, please let us know, because we want to make sure that you know exactly how this is operating. All right, so section 3, basic questions. On time, if it's no, you got 0. Is it the only one being served? No, 0 points. Yes, yes would be 5 points. Okay, that's how we answered it on page 1. Scrolling down, here we are. There's the income or data around the amount awarded and the amount that you spent. 9.75 out of 10 points, right? And you can see it's because this current year, you did not spend the whole amount out. And it's calculated based on, did you spend it all? Right? Moving along. Total participants, leavers, stayers, all of this information was entered on the first tab. Can't change it here. But now you're going to enter anything that's in yellow. This is where you want to start answering more questions around how your program operated. So number 4, here you want to enter only those who exited to permanent destinations. All right. So on APR 23, there's probably a list of 20 or so destinations that count as permanent. You want to count that total and just simply place it right here on this box. All right. So this one's saying that I had 100 participants and all of them left. So I had 100%. 75. Okay. Now, if you're in a situation that I said earlier, and you had maybe 7, let's say you had 99 that showed up in APR 23, but one of them is deceased. Remember, I said you want to go ahead and say 100. And over here in the blue, give us the reason. Okay. And that's noted here in red. So if you have that consideration that you want the evaluator to look at, go ahead and put the total, but tell us why. And so we can go back and look at your APR and we can verify, oh yeah, there's someone who's deceased, or there's someone who, whatever that consideration. And then we'll keep that 100 there. Okay. All right, so the next one is about rapid rehousing. And because I selected permanent supportive housing, it doesn't matter. If I say 100 here, notice my points did not change. So that's why it's really important, as I said, at the top, that you put the right project. So notice, even if I put there, no points there. All right. Now, for your projects, you also want to enter the target household served by quarter and the target person served by quarter. And, you know, as I said earlier, this is all in your APR. And I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to add some numbers. And notice as I start adding my numbers, my little reminder here that says, please enter a number disappears. Okay. So nice little check and balance there. All right. Just want to go back if you had a special circumstance and you're adding that individual here under special circumstance, then over here, let us know. And all this is documented right up here, okay, in this red section. So watch the red. So if I know in Q3 that I had an exception that needs to be counted here, in my blue section, I want to say see section 5A-4. And the evaluator will go back up here and say, oh yes, we're counting someone who's deceased. Right? So if you're adding someone, we don't have the explanation, then what we see as the evaluator is not on your APR. It is not correct. Those numbers are then no longer accurate. Okay. Same with your persons. Throw these in here. Okay, 25. And I'll emphasize that your numbers served by quarters for households and persons, this is all calculated based on up here who you said you were going to serve. So in that first section, auto calculated. So in this case, out of 5 points, 2.5, and then out of 5 points for persons, 1.25. Okay. Next section is very easy. You already entered your income from the 703 report. So here you are. We put 5010, 5872. Both cases that calculated to be 10 points. All right. Want to emphasize here that for permanent supportive housing and for rapid rehousing, there are different HUD requirements for change in income. And based on what you select at the top, again, at that drop down, rapid rehousing or permanent supportive housing, this calculation behind the scenes takes into account, is it 20% for permanent or is it 53% for rapid rehousing? Okay. Again, the drop down and type project is going to very much impact how things are scored here. And then of course, non-employment, 54% requirement is the same for permanent supportive housing and rapid rehousing. All right, and finally, notice the last section is from your first page. So right here, I'm not able to enter anything here because I entered my vulnerability, those populations of vulnerability, they've already been entered here and they're worth 5 points each. And for my vulnerability points, I'm getting an extra 10.45 points right here with a total score of 89.45. Okay. So I just want to emphasize again, we wanted to create a template, you know, where you just say exactly what's there, give us the backup documentation. So enter the data, give us the backup, and here is exactly how we're going to score it. So you can see. And then what the evaluator is going to do, we're going to run our own reports. We're going to verify it, what you gave us, what we have. We're going to do the scoring sheet. And if everything is right, everything looks right, it's going to be exactly the same. There should be no question on what you get and what we get. Okay. Again, you know, watch those special circumstances and make sure you make a note if that's true for you, and that way the evaluator doesn't have to come back and ask you about the inconsistencies in your numbers. So for renewal grants, that's pretty much it. That's really how we've set this up to make it easier for both you and for the person who's going to be scoring. If you're writing a new grant this afternoon, you're going to see it's a much, much more extensive process. Any questions?
David?
Yeah.
So if you have a project that this is really its first renewal, because it was new, and I imagine on some of these categories, like maybe the census at quarters and things like that, things might, you know, be zeros because the project didn't start on the April whatever timeline that you're doing the report. So is there anywhere to indicate that, or are people just going to understand that who are doing rating and ranking, that it's a, it's a first time renewal. So it's, it's a supposedly ranked high enough to get renewed.
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I'm going to throw that out to others who have done this before. Because like you said, some start in June, some start in July or whatever. How have we considered this in the past? Because I haven't done this piece yet, and we want to acknowledge that here. So what's our plan for that?
This is Justina, and generally in the past on first-time renewals, running them through the scoring process is not really in their best interest, and we have in our instructions where they are put on the application in a different order, because they're ranked, but they're not really scored, because there's no way to really score them.
Okay.
I think Heather's making a really good point that I was going to bring up. I see, are there really any first year renewals this year?
Technically, I don't think we would, because
No,
any
but you
first
could
time would
still
be-
be in your first year of operation.
yeah, if you had a grant that started in 19.
Yeah, so this is the first time you've gotten your renewal, so you're okay for the next year. But if you're running reports, I think you could still be in to where you have an incomplete year being scored, or in the report, I think.
Yeah, because if you're started on July of 19, and the only place it would affect you then would be on the 0703, because you wouldn't have the full quarter.
Yeah, Justina, so because this is actually, if you think about it, it was a 2-year grant, 2-year cycle, everyone should have a year's worth of data. On our normal COC, if we were having this conversation next year, we would have a 1 year, and someone may not have a full year. But if you think about it, there's been 24 months of operation. So every project should have at least 1 year's worth of data.
Well, like I have a project that's the newest one, and it started because we got delay after delay after delay getting it opened. So it didn't officially start till September 1st of 2020.
Okay.
So it's just barely a year old. And we were given the option of having it run longer because it was a first year thing. So it technically runs till December 1st. So it's a 15-year grant.
Okay.
15 months, sorry.
Okay. That's a good example.
So this is technically your first year that you're renewing this because of when it started. So you would have to complete the application process, and it would automatically be put up in tier 1 based upon our determination that first time renewals are generally not scored like longer term renewals.
Well, and to Heather's point, technically it will be renewed, but as far as it's just the skirting of the dates for the data.
Yeah.
Are people that score this going to understand this was the first year of operation for a project? Because I don't see that being asked anywhere.
Correct.
Or is it, well, it just, it's got things missing, so it's just marked down because?
Well, when you're doing
Aren't you covered either way? If it's held harmless because it's a first year renewal, it's held harmless because it's a first year renewal. If it has a year's worth of data, it doesn't matter. It's being scored with everybody else. So that's just how we work it. If it's a first year renewal, we generally don't score them, and they go in the tier 1 right under the rest of them. That's how we've done these in the past if it's a first year renewal.
Yep.
So it's either or, and we just need to look at the dates of the grant.
Yeah, because the actual grant dates will be on your eSnaps document.
So I have a really basic question. And David, if you could go back to the top of the tab 1. Are we on tab 1?
Yep.
Okay, application proposal. So what I have is eSnaps, my eSnaps. What is the separate application proposal? Just so I understand, because I don't know that I've submitted a separate application proposal other than this sheet right here. Is that this sheet right here?
That's all it is.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
It just, this is called, yeah, okay. We might, great, thank you. Just wanted
Yeah,
to
I know it's kind of an odd question, you know, but yes, you have the application proposal. You know?
Okay, and if it just said application, I would have thought it was that, but the
Okay.
application proposal made me question, so
Yeah, all
thank
right.
you, that is really clear. And then I just wanted to clarify for everybody else, the only other question I had, and I've filled this out on my own already for both my projects. The only other question that I had was, when it comes to the only project in the county, we had gone back and forth whether it was project type or project. It is, and I just want to make this clear, the only project in the whole county. So if you have a permanent supportive housing and you have a rapid rehousing, you're marking no to that, correct?
Yep, that was how we determined it.
Okay, just wanted to make sure and clarify that for everybody on the call. Thank you.
Thanks, Stace.
It's not by project type.
It is not by project type. It is intended to make sure that there's more. That's what I want to be clear, because if some people are doing project type and some people are doing project, that's not apples to apples. So I want to be clear that it is project and not project type.
Okay.
All right.
I just had a quick question before we take that vote. I apologize. When Justina just was giving some clarification, then it made me zone in on one thing that I hadn't thought about. So in our 4 counties, so in question number 2, under the scoring factors, it says timely submission, and then number 2, C of C project is the only one in the county served. I want to make sure I'm understanding that correctly as well with Dina's comments and Justina. I want to make sure I'm understanding that correctly. Capco has 2 projects that serve our 4 counties. So would I mark that as it is not the only one served?
Right.
Because we have a PSH and an RRH, but no other agency has a C of C project. So I would mark that as
No,
no.
because you have
Okay.
2 different projects.
Okay, sorry, all of a sudden I had to read that correctly. Okay, thank you so much. I apologize.
If they were in two different counties, that would be different, right?
Right.
You would say yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And David, could you clarify again for me on timely submission? Is that timely submission of this application or?
Yeah, my understanding is that we have that timeline, and there should be a due date when this needs to be into, you know, to Caleb, that final date. So is it on that time or is it after?
Yep, and it's the 30th of September.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll show you one more thing since I have. I also want to be very clear that some of these questions that you're bringing up, let me stop my share. And now I'm going to start my share with this. So the scorer, the person who's scoring, will have a very clear step-by-step on how to do the scoring. And so I do have a draft on here. So getting back to like what Justina just said and what we're bringing up, at the very top, one of the things we'll ask is, looking at the documentation, verify, is this a first time renewal or not? All right, so I can add this for whoever's doing the evaluation. So I just wanted to kind of be clear that we can do that. It also has how the points are being scored. So again, I mean, we want everything to be transparent. We want you to know, everyone to know exactly how this is working. So this is a document that will follow along when the evaluator goes through it. So the clarity questions and stuff like that, I will add here also, because we don't know yet who's going to be doing the evaluation, and we want to make sure they have all this.
Perfect. Thanks, David.
Yeah. What else?
Are there any
Well,
questions?
I-
I'll go, sorry.
I
Go
don't want to belabor this county thing, but like, I have one project that serves 3 counties, and I have one that serves only 1. So is the answer no? Because I have 2, even though in 2 counties it is the only thing.
In my mind, that would be yes.
Wouldn't it be
Yeah.
yes for one and no for the other?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand.
Oh, in my mind, it would be no for the 1 county, and then yes for the 3 county.
Okay.
We'll clarify that in the FAQ to send out.
Good point.
Any questions about the timeline, or where to find documents, or anything about the process?
Caleb, do you have the timeline handy? Can you throw that up?
Yeah. All right, so we are 8:31, so we are right here. We're in that renewal and new application. And again, we're going to be having training 2 o'clock today, 2 to 3:30 for any new projects. And the Zoom links are out. Let me know. Send me an email if you don't have those Zoom links, and we'll get them to you. And then just things to be aware of moving forward in the next couple of weeks. We are working on the consolidated application. This is the COC grant. That's in eSnaps that we send. We have meetings every Monday from 10 to 12. If you are interested in helping participate with the wider COC application, please let me know. I'll send you the invite. We'll also be sending out some Survey Monkeys later on in the next couple of weeks to get some responses from you to see what you're doing in your communities to better answer those questions. Another training on the 7th that is more kind of like eSnaps focused, if you have any technical questions around there. And then we'll have that new and renewal office hours on the 14th. The Zoom link is already out. Let me know if you don't have it. And then all the while we're pulling together that review and ranking committee, and they'll have start their first training on the 27th. And then final applications are due on the 30th. Let me know if you need an extension. But please get it on the 30th if you can. But do not submit in eSnaps. And remember too that these are not due to me, but they're due to the, I'll put it in here.
The Gmail account.
Yep, the email account. To send all the information to this account here. And then, we'll see each other all again before then, October and the things to come up. But you can also find this document on our website. And if you want to see we're on our website, you go to OregonBOS.org. Play this little game. Under HUD competition, you go down here, the 2021, and that's where you'll find the timeline, the how to apply. You have our new and DV bonus projects announcement. So if you're interested in getting some of those funds, you can read the announcement there. And here are our applications. And then instructions for new. And we're going to attempt to embed the training today onto this website. So you can just go to our website and see it here. If it doesn't work, if we have technical difficulties, we'll just link it to our YouTube page.